How to end codependent patterns in relationships. Let's dive in on today's Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality podcast with myself, Jessica Falcon, International Soul Embodiment Guide and Relationship Coach. So codependency, we're going to start by talking about what is codependency, unhealthy relationships, unhealthy attachments. You could say toxic relationships definitely fall into this pattern. Abusive relationships also fall into the pattern of codependency. Now, codependency, to be dependent on, it's to source externally. It is to seek externally instead of internally. What often happens in codependent relationships is that when two people are together in relationship, this could be a familial relationship, an intimate partner relationship, friendships, work dynamics, is that it's as if you have cords from your solar plexus, let's say from your core, going out to the other person, seeking their approval, validation, love. You want them to see you as worthy. You want them to see you as good. You are needing their agreement. You are seeing yourself through their eyes, not your own. This is what creates codependency. You see yourself through the eyes of the other person instead of seeing yourself through your own eyes, which means that codependent dynamics are actually created from a lack of self. The stronger your sense of self, the inability or the lack of tolerance you have for codependent dynamics. When you have a strong sense of self, what I'm talking about is the true self, the soul self, not the ego self or the small self. That journey from small self or ego self to soul self, true self, is a deep one. I've talked about it it was in the last episode around divine feminine power and that journey to the soul self that is actually an ancient journey of resurrection into the underworld and then coming out after you release false identities, external identities as the true self. That is that ancient path that will actually end codependent dynamics in relationships, because once you start to connect with the soul self, you see yourself through your inner eyes and you no longer see yourself through the eyes of others. This takes time. This is a journey. That's why when I work with people one-on-one, for example, in a divine activation portal, we generally have several sessions together to really look at what are the ways in which you're sourcing love or worth or acceptance, for example, belonging from other people versus sourcing internally. And that shows up when you start to look at what are your habits in relationships? What are your patterns in relationships? What are the choices you're making and why? What are your boundaries or lack thereof? Are you speaking your truth? Are you showing up fully? Are you revealing who you are? Are you being vulnerable? Are you hiding parts of self? These are the questions to ask yourself to help you see whether or not you're in codependent dynamics, to help you see whether or not you are sourcing externally, but can only be sought internally. Whether you're acting from ego, which sees itself through the eyes of others, or whether you're acting from soul, which is, I know who I am. I know my truth. I'm willing to honor me even when others aren't. We'll have a lot more episodes coming up on boundaries, how to face the fear of judgment, how to speak your truth. So be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on those episodes. You can also go to thepathtosovereignty.com. I'll put the link below so that you can sign up to receive them delivered straight to your inbox. And when you do, you'll receive a free womb meditation as well. Now, we are taught to be codependent. The cultural expectation is actually that you're codependent because we're taught that love is, quote, selfless. So when you don't have a self, when you're told it's selfish to have a self, that it's unloving to have a self or think of yourself, when you're taught that you are only good when other people think you are, all of these cultural beliefs that have been passed down from generation to generation for millennia, then it takes a lot of unraveling to start to release the ways that you are sourcing power externally and start to bring those cords back and source internally. That's sovereignty. Sovereignty is to source internally, is to source love, value, acceptance, worth, belonging, safety internally. It's a journey of coming back home to oneself. It's a journey of inner union. Asking yourself, what are these habits in my relationships? What are these patterns in my relationships? What are the ways that I have needed another person? Codependency generally starts with a need, an inner lack, versus inner fulfillment and desire. That is one of the key ways that you can start to determine. Am I in a codependent, unhealthy relationship? Am I in a free, healthy relationship in which I feel fully free to be all of me, in which I feel safe, in which I trust, I feel trusted, in which I can lean into someone as much as they can lean into me, in which we're both seen and heard and honored? Because the codependency is, I need you to see me as good, worthy, the list goes on. The healthy relationship is, I already see myself as worthy. I already see myself as valuable. I already see myself as lovable because I'm willing to self-validate. I'm willing to hold myself accountable. I am willing to face the fears of being seen. I am willing to know my truth, express my truth. I'm willing to honor my yes, honor my no. I decide what I will tolerate, not tolerate. I don't need you to give me permission to do that. In order to release yourself from these codependent dynamics requires deep levels of self-knowledge and self-inquiry and self-accountability. It is you doing the inner emotional work, because these patterns, these codependent patterns, are not conscious. Sometimes, yes, you are conscious because you've already done some inner work to know, wow, I tend to show up in codependent dynamics. I tend to suppress my truth. I tend to not express my boundary or honor it. So I'm aware that I'm in codependent dynamics. However, self-awareness is not enough. Self-awareness is the beginning. And then from the self-awareness, you do the inner work. So looking at the emotions, because the subconscious rules 95% of our behavior. And the subconscious mind, which you access through your feeling state, will help you to see how you're actually showing up and why. Because you acknowledge the emotions. Why am I afraid of speaking my truth? Why am I afraid of saying no? Why am I looking for permission before I go do this thing? Why am I wanting this other person to validate my feelings? You look at the emotions underneath. Maybe it's the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, fear of judgment, for example. Why? Why am I willing to do that? Okay. What is the thought underneath? What is the belief underneath that? Maybe it came from an experience in childhood. Maybe it's past life related. Maybe it's both. What do you need to see? What do you need to choose? What do you need to transform within yourself to show up differently? If, for example, you want another person to validate how you feel, which can show up in a myriad of ways. For example, if you are saying, when you do XYZ, I often feel angry. and you're waiting for that person to say, yeah, you must really feel angry when I do that, before you express that anger, or you say it with this question mark, or without any sort of accountability. So would it be possible that you talk to me differently or express it more constructively instead of as an insult? Would it be possible that we wait until we have some time to connect before you say those things so I can give you my full attention? Communicating those things rather than waiting for the other person to say, oh yeah, I agree with what you feel and I'm going to validate it for you. When very often they might not agree. Very often they might not feel the same way. They might have a different thought, a different belief, different experience. And if you're waiting for them to validate it and you're denying your own experience in the meantime, you're giving your power away. Being honest with yourself, radically honest with yourself about these patterns will help you get to the core beliefs, because you can change your beliefs. You are not bound to them unless you believe you are. You can change these thought patterns and you can change your emotional responses. But in order to do so, you have to know yourself, you have to be aware, and you have to basically reprogram your mind and work with your emotional state to align it to your soul's truth, to your true self. Because again, the stronger sense of self you have, the less likely you are to end up in a codependent dynamic. This doesn't take away the reality that a relationship is two people. You are showing up, the other person is showing up. Now, what often happens in codependency is that one person is subsumed into the other. It becomes all about the other person. It's all about you. I've lost myself, because you're seeking externally, you're looking externally, you're not looking at both people equally. My experience matters just as much as your experience. Both. We both matter. We're both seen. We're both heard. We're both honored. Codependency is giving more weight to the other person's experience than your own, for example. Now, a healthy relationship that is not based in codependency is two people coming together. I'm going to do it more as circles. The Vesica Pisces. Maybe it's sacred geometry that you're already familiar with. The two whole people, sense of self, whole and complete unto self, sovereign, come together in partnership to create a third. Now, the third is the almond shape in the center, which is the Vesica Pisces, which is union. Codependency is not union. You are not in union when you're codependent. You're being subsumed. There's a difference. You lose the self. True union is based on two whole, complete people coming together and choosing each other. Codependency is based on need. Healthy relationship is based on choice and desire. Codependency is based on inner lack. True relationship is based on inner fulfillment. I don't need you, I want you. I don't need you in order to feel loved because I source love internally. I don't need you to feel good enough because I'm able to affirm my enoughness, for example. Again, this is subconscious. It's not usually a conscious belief, oh, I'm in this relationship because I'm seeking love. And so one of the ways you can identify it is, are you leaving that toxic dynamic? Are you speaking your boundaries? Are you honoring them? Are you banging your head against the wall, waiting for someone to see you who's never going to see you? Because you have to see you to get out of codependent dynamics. You have to hear you. You have to honor you. When you do this, you don't tolerate not being seen and not being heard and not being honored. You're willing to do it for you no matter what. So this is the path to getting out of codependent dynamics into creating healthy relationships. As you can see, it's a journey of self-discovery, self-inquiry, self-responsibility. As you stop seeking externally what you really need to seek internally through the self-knowledge, by reclaiming your power back from outside sources, by pulling your cords back, those energetic cords, pulling the emotional cords back, doing that inner thought belief work. So you're sourcing from within, which is being your own authority, which is sovereignty. I would love to hear how this lands for you. This is the core of the work I do. It's also the core of the forthcoming book. And I would love for you to share this with anyone you know who's in a codependent dynamic so that at least you can understand the path forward. If you want support with this, we can work together one-on-one in a divine activation portal. You can also join the Temple of Divine Feminine Power that's online. We do a lot of work around boundaries, truth speaking, receiving love, being seen. Or you can attend one of my in-person retreats or workshops. You can learn more at thepathtosovereignty.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave your questions or comments. I always turn questions into future podcast episodes, so it will be answered in one way or the other. And otherwise, I will see you on the next Soul Sovereignty Sexuality Podcast.